Oh yeah, and speaking of Roger Ver, leaving his country, leaving. People say he renounced his citizenship. He's a coward. Chased out by lawfare after having spent 10 months in prison. I ain't gonna blame anybody. If you haven't seen Rod Blagojevich's interview with Rogan, go watch it. I remember watching the news when Blagojevich was arrested, convicted, and jailed. And I thought he was a guilty, corrupt criminal. And he might very well have been, but no more so than Obama and his ilk. He went to jail for 8 years for, I forget what it was, fraud or whatever they want to call it. Trump Trump commuted his sentence in 2019. Pretty sure it was 2019-ish, 2020. And yesterday, Trump pardoned Blagojevich. Barnes, in his infinite wisdom and big brain, says, oh yeah, maybe Blagojevich wants to run for office because it would seem that that's how you get back at the people who screwed you and locked you up. Or maybe he just wants, to live without the consequences of being a convicted felon, whatever. Trump pardoned Blagojevich. And I would say there's a number of other people that Trump should, probably pardon. I've been on a personal mission with Roger Ver, Edward Snowden, the pro-lifers. I mean, I forget their names. Dexter Taylor, unfortunately, state charges, so he can't be pardoned. But my goodness, they need to put some serious effing pressure and maybe start some investigations. Civil rights violations. What do you call locking someone away for peacefully exercising his Second Amendment rights, other than conspiracy to violate civil rights? What else do you call it? Sorry, my face is itchy here. Anyway, so Blagojevich got his pardon after having his sentence commuted, being liberated from a hellhole in which he spent 8 years of his life and survived by finding peace and strength and guidance from the Bible. And I'll say, I don't know what religious means anymore. When a book contains advice that can save people from the bowels of hell and have them come out almost stronger people than when they went in. I say almost because I don't believe anybody goes through 8.5 years of trauma and comes out stronger. I think you come out damaged, scarred, traumatized, and then you have to try to survive with that. Blagojevich, you listen to his interview, perhaps among the most insightful people that you'll ever have the good fortune of hearing. And yesterday he got pardoned, which is the part 2 of the forgiveness for the political persecution that he endured and for which he spent 8 years in jail.
I want to express our deepest and most profound and everlasting gratitude to President Trump for what he's done today, for the full presidential pardon. I think about my relationship with President Trump, and it's really, he's always doing things for me, and he never asked me to do anything for him. I had a chance to be on his television show, and then he ended what was a long, long, hard nightmare. After 2,896 days in prison, nearly 8 years, President Trump pulled me out of there, and now he did this. And all I can tell you is that President Trump is a man who, when he sees things that are wrong, he rights them and puts an end to them. And Patty and I, Amy and Annie, will always be grateful to President Trump and never, ever forget his kindness to us. I want to express our deepest and most profound and everlasting gratitude to President Trump for what he's done today.
Sorry, hold on a second. I minimize it now. I can't close it.
I think about my relationship with President Trump, and it's really, he's always...
I love it where, Rod Blagojevich says, he's helped me and he's never asked for help from me. People get to certain positions of power, not in any juvenile or idolatry type way. They get to a position of power where they know there's no help. They need no help. I mean, maybe they could need some, like friendship, guidance, things like that. But they're financially safe-ish. They are not now any longer risking, time in jail where they don't need help, and they can and have the blessing to help other people. But then with that blessing comes a great degree of responsibility and stress, because Donald Trump is at that point of now literally being something of not a God in the capital G sense, but a godlike figure where people are writing letters to God, asking for help from the big man who can help all of them. Elon Musk is in a similar position. And, it goes down a little bit, but Trump is in a position where everybody who needs help goes to him for the help. And it's got to be an overwhelming position to be in. And then you have to say, who do I help today? And then I got to make sure that I'm helping the right people. Then I'm helping the people who really deserve the help. And he helped Blagojevich. And there's people out there. You got your Ed Snowdens. You got your Julian Assanges. Those are the only ones that I know. But I know the other ones that Barnes and I have talked about. Wrongly persecuted by a Biden weaponized system. By a system at large that predates Biden. And Donald Trump and his entourage, his administration is now in the answering letters to God phase, where there are so many people out there who need help. It's almost impossible to know where to start. And it can also be paralyzing. But it hasn't been, so it's amazing. Blagojevich sounds very cool, and that's the good news of the day. The other good news of the day, I guess, letters to God coming down. Look around, I'm overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed. Who can we help today? Who needs help today? Well, hold on. Where is it? I just minimized it. Crap. Who needs help today? Who else might have been politically persecuted? Well, none other than Eric Adams. I wanted to bring it up yesterday, but we had Barnes on, and this was breaking news. So Eric Adams, another man, arguably politically persecuted when he decided to run a bit of a contrary narrative to the diversity is our strength and sanctuary cities will be our savior. U.S. Department of Justice, Office of the Deputy Attorney General, February 10, which was yesterday. Memorandum for Acting United States Attorney, United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York, from Acting Deputy Attorney General. Subject, dismissal without prejudice of prosecution of Mayor Eric Adams. You're directed as authorized by yada yada, as soon as practically possible, subject to the following conditions. The defendant must agree in writing to dismissal without prejudice. 2, the defendant must agree in writing that he is not a prevailing party under the Hyde Amendment. Well, that is. The matter shall be reviewed by the confirmed U.S. Attorney in the Southern District of New York following the November 2025 mayoral election, based on consideration of all relevant factors. There shall be no further targeting of Mayor Adams or additional investigative steps prior to that review, and you are further directed to take all steps within your power to cause Mayor Adams' security clearances to be restored. The Justice Department has reached this conclusion without assessing the strength of the evidence or the legal theories on which the case is based, which are issues on which we defer to the U.S. Attorney's Office at this time. Moreover, it's fascinating to read this. Moreover, as I said during our recent meetings, this directive in no way calls into question the integrity and efforts of the line prosecutors responsible for the case. Got to save everybody's ass here. Or your efforts in leading those prosecutors in connection with a matter you inherited. However, the Justice Department has determined that dismissal subject to the above described conditions is necessary for 2 independent reasons. First, the timing of the charges and more recent public actions by the U.S. Attorney responsible for initiating the case have threatened the integrity of the proceedings, including by increasing prejudicial pretrial publicity that risks impacting potential witnesses and the jury pool. It cannot be ignored that Mayor Adams criticized the prior administration's immigration policies before the charges were filed, and the former U.S. Attorney's public actions created appearances of impropriety that implicate the concerns raised by the Attorney General's February 5th, 2025 memorandum, yada, yada, yada. These actions and the underlying case have also improperly interfered with Mayor Adams' campaign in the 2025 mayoral election. Okay, fine. Second, the pending prosecution has unduly restricted Mayor Adams' ability to devote full attention and resources to the illegal immigration and violent crime that escalated under the policies of the prior administration. We are particularly concerned about the impact of the prosecution on Mayor Adams' ability to support critical, ongoing federal efforts to protect the American people from the disastrous effects of unlawful mass migration and resettlement, end quote, as described in Executive Order 14165. Accomplishing the immigration objectives established by President Trump and the Attorney General is every bit as important, if not more so, as the objectives that the prior administration pursued by releasing violent criminals such as Victor Bout, the Merchant of Death. Accordingly, based on these additional concerns that are distinct from the weaponization problems, dismissal without prejudice is also necessary at this time. By the way, you notice 2 things there? So amazing. Like, once you appreciate that everything Trump writes, even if it's private, so-called, or ostensibly not public, is intended for public consumption. And it's got layered 4D chess level strategizing in it. What were the 2 reasons? Oh yeah, it's going to facilitate our dealing with the immigration problems caused by the prior administration. Your continued prosecution of Mayor Adams is going to compromise his ability to deport violent, illegal, criminal aliens in New York City. That's the second reason. The first reason, you think it's a coincidence that they're saying, it's going to impede his ability to campaign? Who else was subject to lawfare that impeded their ability to campaign while they were running for president? The person who wrote that letter or the administration who directed the person to write that letter. It's a beautiful thing. Rubbing it, it's not even so much about Eric Adams as it is about exposing the corruption and the fraud against Donald Trump using Eric Adams as the pretext. Yep. I'm doing what justice is, dismissing these charges because they interfere with his ability to campaign, me, and they are interfering with his ability to carry out my orders, my policy as relates to deporting illegal criminal aliens from New York. It's a thing of beauty. Excuse me, I say from a key market perspective, I'm pissed off that it wasn't a pardon or a reprieve issued by the president. Who knows? Maybe that's coming. Maybe it's going to be deemed to be that. But bottom line, called it. When Eric Adams went to the inauguration with Donald Trump, when Eric Adams came out and did a bit of a volte-face about the illegal immigrant problem in New York, you knew they were working together, and they can't be working together while he is under the thumb of a malicious, politically motivated prosecution. So that's the letter. It's actually kind of fantastic. I can't send it to you. I'll post it in our locals community right after this so you can read it and share it because it is a thing of beauty. All right.